Hello, Sheffield, and welcome to this session called Punching Through in Primetime, Elevating Diversity. My name's Pat Young, and I'm the host of this session. There's been a lot of talk in the last year about boosting diversity in our industry, both in front of the camera and behind it, including measures to increase the number of sustainable Black and Asian-led companies. Well, 18 months ago, which we should note was before the death of George Floyd, Channel 4 partnered with Simone Pennant and the TV Collective to have commissioners working directly with a number of small Black and Asian-led companies. But what difference does ownership make? And is there enough support for diverse-led companies in achieving creative and commercial success? This industry isn't called show friends, it's called show business. So in this session, we're going to find out how it's been going and what has been learnt so far. I'll be talking to 3 company leaders and 2 Channel 5 execs, and then there will be an opportunity for questions, so please send them into the chat function. Joining me are Heenan Bhatti, Director and EP at Clockwork Films, Emma-Rosa Diaz, MD of Afro-Mic Productions, Thomas Stogden, Creative Executive at Big Deal Films, and from Channel 5, Guy Davis and Denise Seneviratne, who are commissioning editors. So I'm just going to introduce each in turn, and we're going to look at some of their work. We're going to start with Heenan Bhatti at Clockwork Films. So can we see a brief show reel from Clockwork, please? Powerful stuff. Heenan, tell us briefly about your company. So your history, why did you set it up, and where you're based?
Well, my history is I've been freelance for most of my working life. So setting up a business is a bit of anathema, really, to my past and several. Previously, I've been a director and a showrunner. I've done one-offs like God's Waiting Room for Channel 4, which was quite well known one-off documentary. I've done constructed or documentary series, Make Bradford British, the 1949 Dole Office, the Great British School Swap quite recently for Channel 4. And I've also done presenter-led pieces. Had the honour of working with people like Darren Brown, who's fantastic, and had great fun doing some of his documentary stuff and so forth. So when it came, setting up a company wasn't my natural place, if you like, and so forth. But 18 months ago, and I got a conversation with the TV Collective and Denise, who's sitting there at Channel 5, and kind of like came over to the idea of setting up a company because I've always been interested in it. But something in the back of my mind was I wasn't sure, if I'm honest with it. But Denise said some very prophetic words, which was, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. So, and she was probably right. So basically, I decided to get onto a journey to set
So
up a
you're
company.
bullied into it by Denise?
Well, I wouldn't say bullied. I think that would be a little bit of an overstatement.
Encouraged.
Talk to me about encouraged would be good. Yeah, absolutely encouraged in a very nice way. Stress, so basically we got into a conversation basically about potential projects, etc., and I was still working, so I was kind of like starting to form the company and so forth. And in fact, from about November, December-ish till about probably March last year, we were talking, and then kind of like resolved to do a one-off actually. And Denise very kindly partnered me with Daisy Beck Studios, because I'm based in Leeds, and we thought, it was going to form Clockwork, and off the back of that, get into a co-production with Daisy Beck on this project. But then COVID struck, and then the project, which was meant to be set abroad, couldn't happen, and so forth. So it seemed like that was not to happen. But we kept talking. We got a Channel 4 project called Ramadan in lockdown during the lockdown, so set up the company via that. But we kept talking, which is the main thing, with Denise and with Daisy Beck. And Daisy Beck had an idea called about the Yorkshire Ripper and new victims and so forth. It was a German idea by a guy called Dean Palmer that works there, who's very good and so forth. But basically, and we started talking about this, and Denise was uber keen, basically, and very passionate about making it work, to stress. And I did big development with Daisy Beck and so forth. And we worked it up, and we had a commission suddenly for a 90-minute film, And here's small, basically had my company, Clockwork, were co-producing it with Daisy Beck. And the deal was very easy, is that we did the creative and the editorial, etc., and Daisy Beck, who are an amazing company, put in the infrastructure and basically production management etc., etc. And off we went, and so forth. And it's a tough gig. I wouldn't say it was easy, and so forth. I mean, we had to find something new in something that's a very old story, if you like, and so forth. But we're all very proud of it. It worked very well as a co-production. It worked very well with the relationship with Channel 5. And we got there. Denise obviously encouraged us to find something that was new, fresh, etc., make it feel new and fresh as well in terms of the filmmaking. And for me, I was really proud of it. Kind of like by March of this year, it went out, and it's a 90-minute film, and it's for a young company like Clockwork, that's astonishing, actually. I thought, but actually, it's strange when it went out. I felt quite emotional, actually, kind of watching Clockwork's logo go out at the end. Actually, had a fizzer for me that I wasn't expecting, if I'm absolutely honest about it. And I was really proud of the company, the people, my colleagues, the co-production. I'd love to do more co-productions in the future with Facebook if they come round or continue around path and so forth. But there was something about kind of like a little indie in Leeds, making quite what I think was a superlative film, said something new about Yorkshire story, but was a film in itself and so forth. So that's kind of the genesis of how Clockwork came about, our relationship with Channel 5 and so forth. And we keep in touch with Denise, who's always enthusiastic to about kind of promoting companies like Clockwork and so forth.
And is Denise your main is Denise your main point of contact, or do you work with other commission editors there?
No, I mean, in the main, it's Denise. We pitched to Denise and so forth. It feels there's a relationship there and an understanding that we can come to Denise and so forth. And that's been the arrangement. I mean, I've not really talked to Denise, but maybe we should maybe talk to a couple of others. I don't know, but it feels like that's what's in play, and that seems to work. So we're in conversation trying to find another project we can do. As you do as a company, you get pushing. But it's been quite a really interesting kind of little journey for me on a personal level as well. That perhaps this is further on down the conversation, but it's been a learning curve for me because I've obviously been kind of on the creative end of television, if you like, for quite a number of years and so forth, and reasonably successful and enjoyable, etc., etc. But running company and business is very different. So I've been on a steep learning curve. I think it does.
It's not for everybody. Does it excite you? Does it interest you? Does ownership matter?
I think ownership matters. I think that on several levels and so forth. But it does. It genuinely interests me. I've had to learn quite a lot very quickly, as you do in TV anyway, I guess, when you're doing anything. But I've learned a lot about business, strangely, never that I expected. Excel's become my best friend, so it's kind of like been really interesting. So I'm not sure, but understanding Excel and flow predictions and all that is cash flow and all that kind of stuff is a good thing, because you suddenly realise, crikey, I'm going to go bust quite soon. But that being said, we generate, but it's generally interesting and so forth. It's very different to the creative world and so forth. And what you need to do in business terms.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you about the business of the business in a minute. Sure. I'm just going to move on to Emma at Afro-Mic in Belfast. Can we see the Afro-Mic? So Emma, looks sumptuous. Tell us briefly about your company, your history, why you set it up.
Yeah, Afro-Mic Productions is Belfast based. I set up the company 6 years ago after being made redundant. I worked in advertising for about 8 years, from runner up to production manager, and then I became in-house creative director at Ardmore Advertising. And then I was sort of in between losing that job and maybe going for another ad agency job. And I was talking to a friend, Kieran Doherty from Stellify Media. He said, why don't you try it on your own? Because it was kind of, budgets were getting lower and lower for adverts. And so the creativity was being lost there. And I kind of had this passion to do documentaries about subcultures. So I picked up a camera and started making films about skinheads and mods and rockers. And I put them on Vimeo on demand at a very small price, £1.50, just to see. And they ended up selling in 89 countries around the world. Very niche, made about 10, 15 grand out of it. Was able then to show this to NI Screen, which is our Northern Ireland funding body. And they were able to give me some funding on top of that to start making more documentaries. And in the meantime, I made a few commercials myself. that got me a small startup office. So really, it's funny, it's ironic, because 6 years ago, I was sitting in this dining room with a laptop going, okay, I'm creative, I can do this on my own. And now I'm back in the kitchen, but that's because of COVID. So when we had to go home last year in March the 16th, I was sitting in the kitchen going, is this full circle? Does this mean it's the end? But no, we've just had our best year yet. So, and I'm looking forward to going back into the office. But when I'm watching that trailer of Coastal Ireland, I get really jealous because we made it in between the first lockdown and the second lockdown, but the COVID regulations were changing all the time. So we only kept it to about, it was Adrian and 4 others on the team. So I couldn't go to any of the locations. I was in the office with the production manager, making sure that we had all the regulations for each county that they were going to. And I managed to get on this scheme, the BAME initiative with TV Collective, thanks Simone. And I was teamed up with Daniel Pearl, and he was fantastic. I had a lot of experience in advertising with travel shows, and I know Ireland really well. And I just got, when we talked about a travel log series for Ireland, I was so passionate about showing the beauty. And we got the commission very fast before a presenter was attached. And then obviously Adrian was a great find. So yeah, that's Afro-Mic.
And it looks beautiful. So how do you work with Daniel? Just give us some insight into how that relationship works.
So being Belfast based, I'm used to jumping on planes every 4 weeks and coming over and pitching in London and Glasgow as well. But it just happened so quickly. We got to chat. He was always available, which was brilliant. And, having a relationship with the commissioner is just unreal. And he was like, just pick up the phone if you've got any ideas. And when we decided, yes, a travel log series would be great, because Channel 5 had Scotland covered and England. But I know that Ben had a passion for Ireland because he'd lived here before. When I flew over, I had this pitch already. I'd been working on it with the team for about a week, and I had it all ready to show Daniel. It was my first time up at Camden. I'd met Ben before at Camden just as an introduction meeting, but I met with Daniel, and within about 2 minutes he said, "Oh, we're doing this. We just have to work out who the presenter is." I was like, "What? We're doing that? Quickest commission ever." And I rang the office, because I usually fly over on my own, and they're all in the office. "Well, how did it go?" And I was like, "We've got the commission." It was screaming in the middle of Camden. And so, yeah, we worked on a presenter, and that's how it worked with Daniel. But Daniel himself was a huge support throughout it. And that was really important, because Channel 5 are very unique with regards, the commercial hour and how that's broken down. And it was new to me, with the teasers at the end of the show. And I was panicking a bit in the post, and Daniel heard it in my voice. He said, just tell me what's the problem is. The edit's not going to plan. And literally we just talked it through, and he recommended, I was looking for a really good edit producer, and it was somebody he worked with before. And since then I've worked with her on 2 other shows. So that was a great find.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. And finally, Thomas from Big Deal Films. So can we show the Big Deals film, please?
Any child knows the true meaning of Christmas. Toys. Lots and lots of toys. Like Furby! We unwrap the best 25 toys ever to make it under the tree.
He's been!
Will your favourite make it to the top of the pile? The greatest Christmas toys. Tonight at 9 on Channel 5.
So, Thomas, tell us briefly about Big Deal Films, how you set it up, and your history.
Yeah, so Big Deal Films was founded now in 2014, so kind of 6 going on 7 years ago now, by my partner Danny, Joshi, and I. So Danny had a background in talent management, so he was kind of the relationships person, and I've always been kind of in development, so I'm the ideas guy. And kind of throwing back to what Heenan said earlier, my instinct is creative, his instinct is kind of business. So we always kind of meshed well, and we thought, you know what, we want to launch our own company one day. A healthy dose of kind of being a bit naive, but I think a lot of great things come from a bit of naivety. So we thought, you know what, I'm going to continue plowing ahead with, development, learning the ropes. He'll kind of continue making headway on the management side of things, because we both found that there was a lack of either willingness, a lack of slots, or a lack of interest in a lot of the ideas and stories we wanted to put forward. So again, kind of, we thought, look, we want to be that company that is the hub for these ideas. So what happened was we got our first commission with London Live when it was still, what's the word, active. And yeah, it was it was an hour documentary that we managed to make for them. And then after that, we landed a short series for Channel 4 called Disabled Fight Club. And so we thought this is kind of as good a time as any to launch. So we literally, got a little office in Liverpool Street without much of a pipeline at that point. Again, kind of a bit naive, but, we kind of jumped in there, and we found the best way to kind of build our company was to kind of establish ourselves in short form, kind of show that we could deliver. We ended up doing a lot of short form content for, Channel 4, BBC Ideas, and the One Show. The One Show has actually kind of been a brilliant kind of, place to create ideas, because, it gives you that grounding in how to tell a story in 4 minutes, tells you how to, shows you how to be resourceful, and it gives you a track record of actually being able to make stuff and have that reference point. So yeah, we built a lot of our identity in a factual short form space. Then we went into kind of mid form. We did a lot of CBBC My Life films, which are brilliant kind of single narrative films that allow you to tell amazing stories. And we were nominated for a children's BAFTA a couple of years back for one of those, which then kind of led on to our longer term aspirations, which was long form. It's always been the goal, but we thought, we've paid our dues, we showed we can deliver. And now we're at a point where we are obviously kind of fully focused on long form and just kind of carving out our name in that space, really, which leads us on to, the Channel 5 scheme, which our commissioner was Dan Lau. And, we'd known him from his days at Vice. So it was a nice kind of reunion after a few years of not, being in communication. And yeah, he was amazing. Dan's got an amazing kind of development brain. So he's able to kind of see seeds of an idea and help us kind of shape it. Kind of with Emma kind of mentioning her first meeting and how it was a really amazing kind of experience. Our kind of eureka moment was when I sent Dan a little YouTube clip of a toy getting tested for safety reasons, and this was literally a teddy bear getting blowtorched and crushed in a vice, and he was like, "Yes, there's something in that. There's something in that. Let's keep talking." And kind of fast forward, and we ended up making Greatest Toys. So I think the seeds of an idea can come in many different places. And yeah, that's kind of where our journey has been and where we're at the moment.
Okay, that's great. Thank you all. Now I'm going to do a short corner turn to Channel 5 and bring in Guy and Denise. So let's run the Channel 5 tape about this broader scheme. I think there are 18 companies involved. So let's do the Channel 5 tape. So Guy and Denise, I mean, a great tape, and you've got a lot to be proud of there. What interests me is you launched this initiative before the murder of George Floyd. What was the stimulus, and why did you think it was necessary?
Well, shall I go next? What it came out of, and what's interesting is looking at those shows. God, that was very corporate, wasn't it? That real, but anyway. What happened was that we were thinking about how we are a very commercial channel, and we're not working with companies that we want to work with. There are more people out there. And we were chatting to Simone at TV Collective, and we had one of those big dinners where we all got together with producers and just sort of said, like, what's the problem? right? What is the problem? And a lot of the problem was for people, they weren't getting meetings. They didn't feel they were in the sort of connections. They were sometimes getting development, and then that led to nothing. And so we thought, well, actually, look, the way to do this is to work with TV Collective and come up with a list of people and companies who want to work with us. But in order to work with us, they're going to have to realise that we're a commercial channel. And actually, we're about commissions. We're not about development. So we want people to work on programmes that are going to get the audience. And I think what's interesting about all of the three guys here and their shows is you can see they're absolutely Channel 5 shows. That was the point, was to create an initiative which is not some kind of scheme. It's a business initiative. It's about growing companies. Look at Daisy Beck that Heenan mentioned. Before the Yorkshire event, they're a very small company doing some things for us. That show has made that company. And what we're looking at, if you look at, Thomas's series about toys and stuff, you think, actually, there's a lot of potential here. And so we worked with a number of companies sort of to take that on and say, right, let's commission. Let's get some ideas. Let's commission. Sorry, Denise.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think in the same ways that we had initiative for regional companies, you're always trying to widen your net and try to get as many voices heard, as many small, true indies coming in to the fold and being heard by us as commissioners. And I think with that initiative that we work with the TV Collective, it was way before that sort of zeitgeist. And as you mentioned, Pat, the George Floyd, terrible thing that happened last summer. And we always wanted to work with new companies. And I think that was what's the important thing. Who isn't represented, whose voice isn't heard, which places should we be working with, which companies, and that's what came out of it. And at its heart is programs that will rate and will do well for us. And those conversations were starting well before that. But I think when these commissions came about, it was really about what do you think will be a success on 5? And that's what we would try to develop. That relationship is what we were trying to develop with our new companies.
And how much insight do you give them? How much insight do you guys give them to what makes a 5 show?
I think a lot, actually. I think the discussions, sometimes when we've had discussions, I know I've worked with Thomas and Heenan, and when we've had discussions about the channel and what we need, I think, we're always trying to say, what are the problems that you can see on the channel? What do you think you could solve? Look at where we could be doing better. What genres aren't we doing? All of those sorts of things are really important to everybody. And I think that I would talk to them just as I talk to any company.
Yeah, I think it's about having, it's about having and developing, and this comes from a relationship with the channel, doesn't it, and commissioners, a sense of the sensibility of that channel. And if you're interested in making commercial TV with a high standard, with entertainment values, with great kind of editorial clear positioning, then, we want to engage with you. And this particular this initiative also was about companies who clearly had potential to grow. So it's because what happens is that quite often, and I know this from being a producer, is that what you need are returnable shows. What you need are successful shows, popular shows on big channels. And then if you have those, that allows you to also do perhaps what you would do in your heart if you had a passion project. So this initiative was all about priming businesses to think in the way of being a commercial producer. Not that they weren't thinking that way exclusively before, but I think it's just if you're going to work for us, then it's about getting in tune with that, because that can open up all sorts of other doors. And that's what we hope will happen with the people who are on this particular initiative.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that That's the whole thing, is encouraging you. If you do good stuff for us, then there's no other reason why the broadcasters wouldn't want you to do things for them. We're not sort of thinking, oh, we just want to nurture you and keep you at Channel 5. We're wanting you to grow as a business, and to grow as a business, you need to work with all the broadcasters. So that's what we're behind.
Emma,
I know, and that's true to what happened after Adrian Dunbar's Coastal Ireland went out. And I was getting calls from Daniel saying, well, has anybody congratulated? Have you heard from any other channels? And he was genuinely pleased when I was able to say, I got loads of text messages and emails from other commissioners at other channels, and I had a meeting with him last week, and I was able to tell him that it's sold in 8 territories around the world. And that, that's a massive for a small company of mine, being able to go, now I've got a relationship with SBS in Australia or an SVOD in Sweden, and when they see more of our content coming through, they'll go, oh, that's the girl that made, Coastal Ireland. So it's massive for us.
Okay, we're going to broaden out the conversation now. And if you're watching, please send in your questions. And anyone can take this question first. Actually, Heenan, you picked up on this in your remarks, so I'm going to come to you first. We talk a lot, or there is a lot of talk about diverse-led indies. Why does it matter who owns the company? Isn't it just about the quality of the ideas?
Well, yes and no, but I think primarily, yes, it does matter, actually, because I think that, leadership or whoever owns the company, whoever leads the company and so forth, sets a certain tone. And I think that in this whole world of diversity and that whole debate and so forth, particularly post, kind of Black Lives Matter, etc., that's actually really important for television and so forth at the moment. And I think it's kind of, it's important for the programs that we make and who we employ and how we're seen as an industry, etc. So I think that, and that comes from the leadership. I think it allows a greater diversity of people that work on programs. I think it allows a great diversity in terms of who's in those programs, and I think that kind of like once you put all that together, and also the type of ideas that kind of are presented, although not exclusively about Black and Asian people and so forth. But that being said, what it does do in a very natural way, in a very unforced way, is that you see diversity in around you in terms of the company and what it makes and so forth. I mean, I just know myself, when I've been a showrunner, when I've been a director, when I've kind of been hiring people, the fact is that, I just very naturally gravitate towards quite a diverse group of people that I'm talking to. And I don't know, it's just something that I've always done and so forth. I've probably never really noticed it, if I'm being absolutely honest. But that included a lot of Black and Asian and diverse people, really. So, and it's noticeable in any team I've ever had in the past that's part of the DNA of that and so forth. And and I've very, only really started reflecting on it more recently when the whole issue, perennially keeps coming up in television and so forth, but about diversity in television. And you do notice that in the past, a lot of teams haven't had that and so forth. So I think that's something to do with me as an individual. It's not me being kind of like doing the right thing. It's just me being myself, really. So do you know what I mean? So I do think it's absolutely, kind of like, so diverse indies in that respect matter.
Thomas, Emma?
Yeah, I would say I'd just really echo that. I mean, first of all, it's important for kind of the diverse source of stories, different perspectives on, topics that we've seen over and over again on TV. Like it just makes sense, and it's the right thing to have that kind of diversity of voices and content. But I think, it's definitely a trickle down effect. So not only is it kind of the ideas that we're pitching, but I think it's the companies and the ethos within the companies towards hiring, whether that's kind of on productions, or just kind of longer term in-house hires. I think naturally as a diverse company, or I'm just speaking for myself here and my partner Danny, but we look for other kind of diverse talents and like how can we nurture them and how can we create a place where they can advance in their careers. And I think again it comes back to kind of having people that are diverse in positions of power and decision making, because I mean we just did a show on BBC Three called Dreaming Whilst Black, and that production was 80% diverse, and that it was kind of a natural thing that occurred, and we looked at the stats after and we're really kind of pleased with it. But it was that's just an indication of how it, throughout, from top to bottom, essentially, a diverse company will be bringing different elements of diversity, not just the, obvious ones on screen, but there's so many. It's a real nuanced thing, isn't it? And I guess that what a diverse company brings is that nuance of thought to what diversity is.
So, Denise and Guy, I mean, as somebody who runs a diverse-led company, I mean, I obviously understand that point of view, but from a channel's point of view, you just want the ideas, you want the ratings. Why does it matter to you who owns the company?
Well, I think there's two things here. One is about perspective, and it's what Thomas is saying. There is a perspective that comes from the people who run any company. And I think that it's important that we are tuned into that. We should be reflecting our audience and our audience sensibilities. And I think that that's all part of the sort of the ecology, if you like, of production. So I think that that's one reason. And, I see it in all sorts of ways when you're dealing, and, as commissioner, you see rough cuts and things like that. You can sense it, and it's really vital and interesting and alive, and that's great. And I think the other thing is about this initiative and its idea about businesses and getting companies to grow as businesses in that commercial environment. And that's something that's really important. So it is important to us to think about our suppliers and to make sure that we're reflecting a commitment to growing those businesses. So that's, I think it's those two things for me. Denise, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, well, I'd agree with that, and I think perspective for me is a massive thing, because if you're not reflecting if companies aren't reflecting our audience and the thoughts of our audience that we're playing to as a commercial broadcaster, then we're not doing the right thing. It has to be from a mixed backgrounds, mixed ethnicities, in order to get that voice across. And absolutely, if it's from the top down, you're going to have the sensibility to make sure, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you make sure that diversity in voices is being, is there. And then we're tapping into that because that's what our audience is made of. So why would we not?
Okay. To the production companies, I mean, so it's clear with Channel 5, they see you as, commercial players who bring something extra to the table. How do you think the other broadcasters see you? Are you seen as high days and holidays, good for seasons and one-offs? Or do they see you as commercial players now? And maybe has it changed since your success at 5? Start with Emma.
Yeah, I think, the reaction to our first ever primetime slot and getting 1.7 million was astonishing for me as well. I was like, what? The next morning when I got the email. So yeah, it does. It gives you some clout. The ambition there is there, and there's a lot of hard work behind it all. And it's not only UK. We want to make it's internationally as well, and this is opening doors internationally, especially when you've got a really good distribution company working with you. So yeah, it's very important to get these kind of breaks and people to take risks, and thankfully Channel 5 did for us.
But have you seen a difference in the other UK broadcasters, how they see you? How does that manifest
I believe
itself?
so. It feels great. I mean, to be able to say that was our first. We do have a lot of BBC. We have a show going out tonight, an observational documentary series for BBC Northern Ireland, and we do hit very good numbers here in comparison to network. So, but it's just sometimes you just need someone to give you that chance to showcase your work here. My work for BBC Northern Ireland and regional content is no different to what I would do, and the work that an effort we put in for network. But we just need sometimes a launching pad to do that. So yeah, I do believe that people do pay more attention when you get those slots, definitely.
Heenan?
Yeah, I think, it's visibility, isn't it? Simple as that. Kind of like Channel 5 basically allowed Clockwork to make, helped and facilitated, making a 90-minute feature doc. I mean, what's not to like? And, kind of like we made that, genuinely.
No, I can
kind of
understand why you left
made
5, and I can understand how that.
No. But what I'm saying is
asking how that helps you with the others.
Basically gives you visibility with the other broadcasters, because that we make that. It's kind of like we're making stuff. We're making programming. We're out there, kind of like talk to us, etc., etc. So it gives us visibility.
Has the nature of the conversations changed?
I don't. Well, we're having we're in the mid. We're a very young company, so it's like we're in the midst of the conversations rather than starting or finishing them and so forth. So I can tell you that in a year, really. So at the moment, it feels like people are very open to conversations and so forth, which we're glad to have and so forth. And but to stress also, just to kind of make a slightly different point, but on the same subject, is that for me, I kind of want my cake and eat it, I think would be the right phrase. That, we are a BAME-led team. We're interested in multicultural programming and so forth. And I don't mind, developing ideas and so forth in that area. But however, I also want to kind of hit the mainstream. I want to make Channel 5 shows. I want to kind of hit that mainstream element. I think we're capable of it and so forth in terms of what we did with the Ripper programme and that, general kind of popular phase. So
you can't run a
do it commercially
on seasons and holiday
Indeed.
programs. Thomas,
and we must get into that place.
Has that changed, changed the nature of those conversations?
I think again, it's kind of hard to quantify, like, has it what the difference is. I guess we're being commissioned, and ultimately the proof is in the pudding is if you're getting commissioned. So yeah, I think it can only have helped to show that we can deliver kind of to that mainstream content essentially. But I think it's just but I think more than anything, what this scheme has showed is that what kind of the power of regular kind of contact and communication and just being seen by commissioners. Like it's such a simple thing. But after this scheme happened, like I literally reached out to another commissioner and I basically said, look, this is what we've done on this scheme. Do you want to replicate this where you are? Do you want to kind of put something in place where we speak to you regularly and we get to talk ideas with you? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds amazing. And even though it's so simple, I think it is that mixed with the tangible outcomes and the tangible benchmarks and targets that is the kind of formula for success, hopefully. So yeah, it has helped. Yeah.
Denise?
Can I just add to that, Pat? There's just that I know we keep saying scheme because we're really familiar with the old scheme. I mean, in my career, I've seen a lot of schemes and they've come and gone and they've come and gone. The big thing here is that it was an initiative that we are trying to talk to you as suppliers, just like we talk to any other suppliers. So maybe we've looked at you as new companies, as growing companies, because that was part of the initiative to grow you as businesses. But really, it's just the ongoing, it's as hard for you to get recurring commissions as it is for any supplier. So, everyone wants a returning series because that's your company. You get a hit returning series, it works. And really just those ongoing dialogues with you as suppliers is what's important. We're not a charity. We want to work with good people. And it's exactly the same whether you're BAME led or any led. This is where the sort of initiative started. But now it's like up to you.
Mm-hmm. It is up to you. You're all ahead of me in terms of Channel 5 success rates. I'm quite interested in your sustainability. I mean, Hannah, right, this is very early in your company life, but Thomas and Emma are a bit further down the path. Do you feel your companies are now sustainable? Do you think that you're settled? Or are you still in that trying to get to a point of stability? There comes a point in your company's life when you think, okay, we have a foundation now from which we can grow, as opposed to scrambling, just watching cash flow every week. Where are you at, Emma, on that path?
Good, sustainable, especially after the last year and a half that we've all been through. But I did panic, last year. I was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And we adapted and we managed to get a few BBC things off the ground, and we've just delivered a load of #learn on TikTok for Channel 4. I still do a lot of digital content, and I think that's a really good way for the younger researchers and APs in the team to learn very quickly, because even digital content, like the deliverables for that is nearly as the same as an AS11. You know, there's a lot to it, but very quick turnaround. So no, and we're always looking for opportunity. And, you know, just on that, what Denise was saying, you know, I'd love to do more programs for Channel 5. I honestly love doing Irish travel log shows, but I'd love to pitch other ideas, and we're just going to have to work as hard. You know, this wasn't just given to us. We had to work hard for this. So it's a lot of hard work, but no, I'm sustainable now. I think we are, yeah.
What about you, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Touchwood is all sustainable at the moment. You know, we recently got investment from the Channel 4 Growth Fund as well, which is, you know, gives an extra added bit of infrastructure and security in that sense. But I guess, you know, I'm always going to have that slightly kind of hustler's mindset of never being kind of feeling secure. Like, I feel like that's quite healthy for a business owner to always feel like you're never comfortable. So even though it may not be the reality like it was, you know, a few years ago, where that was the reality, you had to hustle to keep the bills paid. Yeah, I mean, that's always the kind of the creative process. I'm quite tough on myself in you know, generating ideas and never kind of slacking. So I guess even though, you know, on paper we're kind of sustainable, from a mindset perspective, I always like to feel like I'm, you know, having to do this and motivated by that kind of, you know, desire to succeed and desire to make sure that the bills are paid. So yeah,
that's a good mindset to have, Heenan. I mean, interestingly, yeah, you partnered to get yourself going, and there's a lot of debate about, you know, I've got a black company and I had to partner with somebody. How was partnering for you? Because I think probably experiences differ.
I think the experience is different. I had a really good experience. You know, I became very good friends with Paul Stead, who runs Daisy Beck while we were making it and so forth. And, you know, I really respect them as a company and so forth, and the support they gave us, etc., etc. So my experience was very good, you know. So, you know, we got on with what we needed to do. As I said, we divvied up kind of responsibilities, and it's very clear what everyone needs to do, which I think is often the trick, actually, I found that quite reassuring in a strange sort of way, because you kind of knew where you stood almost within the relationship and what you needed to achieve.
What about the economics?
Well, that's
what about the economics? I'm not asking you to spill them out here.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, you know, economically, I mean, you know, obviously we don't want to, you know, we can't do, you know, every production is co-production. So our next project, you know, we've got coming up with BBC Three documentary, which we're going to, you know, do on our own, as we did with Ramadan in lockdown, when Channel 4. Last year. So, you know, it's you know, I think to sustain, we've obviously got to do our own projects and I don't mind doing co-productions with Daisy Beck in the future if for the right projects, etc., etc. You know, we have a good relationship, so why not? You know, so but I think that kind of looking to the future, you know, I don't have the sustainability that Emma and Thomas, like, you know, do and so forth. So, you know, after the BBC Three thing, we're still thinking, right, what next? Because, you know, we've got to get gigs in. You know, that's the name of the game, isn't it? So, you know, that's where we are at the moment. So, but that being said, I found the co-production, you know, a good experience, actually. You know.
Now, Viacom Channel 5 have a no diversity, no commission policy, which is very clear. Do other broadcasters have that in your experience, or is it more negotiable? Emma?
I think for a network, definitely has to have diversity. For Northern Ireland, it's a bit tricky. 2% of Northern Ireland's population is BAME. So, but for me, it's no excuses. What can we do? You know, yes, okay, we might not have diversity to fill this sort of executive producer director roles, but what I do is I make sure that on my team I have at least juniors coming through. So we have a junior researcher, and now I've taken on board a girl that's just out of uni. So she's a production assistant. So if it's up to us, I think it's really our responsibility to make that change. It irritates me when people make an excuse, and I think there's ways and means of doing it. Obviously, it's a bit easier for me because a lot of our content here in Northern Ireland is young skewing. So we have a lovely diverse melting pot of on-screen talent as well. But even just doing the digital content for TikTok, we discovered new talent as well. So it's really good for research and development when you're doing it on short form.
Okay, Heenan or Thomas?
Yeah,
Thomas.
I mean, yeah. So I think, I think all broadcasters say that it is kind of a priority and that is the approach. It's hard to hard to see how genuine it is, because we always come with diversity kind of embedded in our shows. It would be interesting to see if we didn't have that, if that would be, a sticking point. We're never going to be the ones to test that out, because we always have diversity in our shows. But yeah, maybe that's a question for some of the other companies.
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree with Thomas. You see, that is kind of a question for other companies. Just for our track record. Ramadan lockdown, we had 5 of the 6 people were people of colour. The future BBC 3 project we got coming up, the majority of the team are people of colour. So it's kind of like it's just a question to throw to other companies, I guess.
Okay, we're coming towards the end of it. Go on, Guy.
Sorry, Pat, I was just going to say it's interesting because there's, just quickly, I mean, no diversity, no commission is like a policy, right? That's on the contracts. That's a given. It's on the contracts, right? Yeah. So, but it's how you deliver, that's the thing. And for us, it's a number of things, one of which is doing initiatives like this, but also we've got a promotion opportunities program, which we're just in the middle of now, which is about, in fact, what Emma was talking about, like, where do you find the people at the right level to do those bigger jobs? When you're hiring, who's hiring? Who are they hiring? All of those things. And that's a big piece of work that we're working on right now, in terms of just finding a way of accelerating some people, which I think is really important. And then the other thing for us would be on screen. Denise, I don't know whether you want to talk about, the new voices.
Yeah. I mean, we've got. So, as Guy said, it's in the contract with no diversity, no commission. We all know that, that in some instances in the past, when you get people involved at a junior level, I know what you were talking about. Was that the fact that there aren't a lot of people around, so you get them in at junior level. What I found in the past is that junior level, they come in at junior level and then they disappear off the face of the earth, and because they can't sustain working at junior levels, or they're just not getting promoted. So the Promotion Opportunity Project, for me, is a way of getting people to management level and getting them to a point where they're a series producer and they have to hire other people, and then you make sure they come through. If you get people at senior level from ethnic minority backgrounds, that's when the industry starts changing. So you get people on junior levels, they sometimes don't get through. With new faces, new voices, that's mainly on-screen talent. So that's something, again, we've been working with people for quite a while that are on screen, but it's something that we want to continue to improve. And getting people, you can't pluck people out of hats. If they're not experts in all sorts of different fields, like World War II or, the Tudors, then, we have to look at different ways of getting people that maybe haven't come through on screen on other channels. Are they PhD people? Are they people that are great at passionate about talking about their own expertise in their own fields, that we can start investing in and making them on-screen talent? Because what we don't want anymore is going, we can't find anyone, because there's always someone.
Okay, Emma, Thomas, and Heenan, I'm going to come to you in a minute with the final question. Be ready. Lots of people watching this will be thinking of setting up their own indie. What's the one piece of advice you give them? So while you're mulling on that, one piece of advice, Denise and Guy, I mean, the proof of any pudding, especially a commissioning pudding, is do you go back for more? So as you look at this scheme, where is it sat?
Well, I think it's something that... Sorry, I think the thing is, this is the start of conversations with the people that we've already, but new relationships. Just want new suppliers. We always want new, exciting companies that are coming to us, and if they're this is a sort of prototype. New BAME-led companies will come to us in the future, and a continuing relationship with the ones that we've already commissioned. As I said before, It's not easy to get a returning series.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
these conversations are ongoing, and you now have access to the commissioners to see what we're looking for, to start understanding what the channel's about, to understand where we are and what kind of programming is a success on our channel.
And I think you only have to look, we've announced a couple of recommissions today, actually. It's interesting, like one of them, which is Sally Lindsay's Posh Sleepover, is a totally commercial proposition. And that's another 6 hours. And so I think, we need to look at those examples and say, that's working for us. That's how relationships will continue. It's about delivering, and it's about us inputting to make sure that people are aware of what we want, aware of what the channel is, and then working towards that, and then we'll get success. Because ultimately it's not about getting a development deal; it's about getting a commission, about being a successful company, because that's what we want people to be, and getting ratings for us. That's what we have to work towards.
And I think, Thomas, I saw today. Have you been recommissioned as well? Toys?
Yeah, there's a further 3 that's going to be coming out. So yeah, that will be good. Yeah, and we just look to how we can build on that brand, and keep the conversations going.
Well, this is proof in the pudding. Where about you, Emma?
Yeah, the channel want more of coastal Ireland, and I'm just working with Adrian. He's busy this year with loads of acting commitment, so hopefully we'll be able to announce that very soon. I've just done it. I'm only joking. Once his diary's sorted out.
And Heenan, I mean, clearly you've got your BBC Three film to come, and you're in the development phase for the next round of ideas.
Yes, indeed. We'll keep the conversation going. Channel 5 are open to it, so we're going to continue with the conversation.
Okay, so I'm going to come to each of you with your one. And actually, I'm going to come to the commissioners as well. The one piece of advice you'd give to start up. So I'll come in order of my screen. So Heenan first, please. One piece of advice. Someone thinking of setting up their own indie.
Balance the commercial with the creative in your mind.
In your mind, and does that mean you have to do it all yourself, or find?
Well, no.
Partners?
I think it's kind of like realizing that setting up an indie is commercial proposition as well as a creative one, and it's how you balance those two things up, I think, is key. So that means that kind of like, what do you pitch, kind of what type of programming you can go for, how do you look at the marketplace, etc.
Okay, Denise, one piece of advice you'd give to people out there thinking of setting up an indie.
I think you have to have a kind of USP as well. I think it's good to go, this is what we're really good at. It's good to say that, you can do lots of different things, and obviously a lot of people can, but you tend to broadcasters and indies work together with, they're really good at that. They can really make that kind of program, and we know they can. So I think that's a good way to start, saying that this is our kind of expertise, but obviously it's wide, and just keep coming with ideas. Keep coming with the ideas. Keep trying to get access to places that we can't get access to, and just keep dialogues going.
Okay, Thomas, one piece of advice.
Yeah. So I know you've not got much time, but yeah, it's kind of a slightly kind of the reality check of it. Be prepared to be tenacious, because there will be a lot of no's. A lot of no's with a lot fewer yeses. So just be prepared to be tenacious and be kind of dedicated to returning and keep coming back.
And you say there'll be a lot of no's. That's true. There are very few yeses. You get a lot of maybes. How do you treat the maybes?
Like a no until they're a yes. So just kind of, yeah.
It's very sensible.
Yeah, really.
Okay. Emma, what's your one piece?
Mine was exactly the same as Thomas, just in one line: let the knockbacks make you stronger and more determined.
Okay, that's been your experience. I mean, what's your no to yes? What's the no to yes ratio?
Really? Oh my goodness. Oh, 8 no's to 1 yes. Is that?
Wow, I think that's really good.
Very good.
9. But that's paid development. That's maybe paid development or whatever. Yeah.
And then Guy.
All I would just say about us is, you know, don't feel we're not for you if you're interested in making commercial telly. You know, that's what you should be thinking of. That's the way to get to us. Don't feel outside that.
Channel 5, it's commercial telly. Yeah, it does what it says on the tin. Okay, we are out of time. So I want to thank Heenan, Thomas, Emma, Denise and Guy. Thank you all for joining us, and be lucky, everybody.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you all.
Everybody.